Seek professional help.
Of this rental house.
I'm tinting my eyebrows and this is a hot mess. What advice do you have for dancers that have quit dance for a long time and want to jump back into the dance world? Honestly, the most important thing I have to say for people like you is it's going to be so much easier than you think. So first off, even if you feel like it's been forever since you've danced and that you forget everything, you have a total advantage over somebody that hasn't ever danced, because as soon as you start dancing, your muscle memory is going to kick into action and everything that you once knew is going to start coming back to you. Isn't that right, Kitty, my dancing queen? He's a boy. I would also say don't worry about comparing yourself to other people or stressing yourself out to be at a certain level. Just dance to enjoy it, unless you are trying to re-enter the world as a professional dancer. In that case, really find your niche, find what you are good at, and make sure that you are getting to a high level in that. But don't really worry about all of the extra noise. Don't worry about trying to be amazing at absolutely everything and being an incredibly versatile dancer. If you have a short amount of time to get as good as possible at something, try and make sure that you brand yourself and try and make sure that you're staying in your own lane and getting really good at least one thing first. Bella asks, how much technique or experience did you have when you started dancing at 19? I've always wanted to dance but have zero flexibility or rhythm. Well, I definitely had some natural mobility but zero rhythm. I was a total klutz, and I would say that in terms of technique I had absolutely none. Like, I could do a cartwheel, but in terms of dance I really knew absolutely nothing when I got into it at about 19, other than I was dying to do it. Bella asks, have you been to any other countries apart from Canada? I've been to Canada, obviously, because I live here. I've been to the United States, Cuba, and Mexico, and I think that's it. Are you still a dance coach for students? While I do not have time to teach at a studio anymore, because that is definitely a full-time commitment and I wouldn't be able to keep up with my social media, I do still coach students. I do private lessons and stuff on the side. But as of right now, I have no intention of ever going back to teach at a dance studio. If I ever did, it would be like drop-in classes for adults in a big city and probably not kids classes. What was your experience like in high school? Well, in high school, I was definitely a total keener. I was taking all of the sciences. I was taking my grade 11 classes in grade 10. I was just really focused on graduating with the best marks that I possibly could. I was a straight A student. I was really working towards getting a scholarship for pre-dentistry to go into University of Alberta because I wanted to be an orthodontist. That was probably the best time that I had socially. I was still bullied by a ton of people, like all of the boys at school, but in general, I was friends with pretty much every single girl in the school. In the yearbook, I was voted social butterfly, so I was friends with absolutely everybody. Overall, I'd say that I had a pretty good high school experience. I ended up staying for a lap year after I finished all of my sciences and math and stuff and was really focused on graduating early to end up doing the hairdressing program. So I stayed for an extra year and became a hairdresser before I went off to performing school. But overall, I'd say that my high school experience was pretty great. I met a lot of really good friends that I still have to this day. That being said, I did grow up in Grand Prairie, Alberta, which was a very redneck, closed-minded town at the time, very homophobic, so I was still in the closet until after I graduated high school. I think after my first year of college, actually, still as well, so that part of the experience was not fun, but aside from that, I think that I had a pretty good high school experience. Kim asks, what is your favorite flavor of ice cream? Ooh, Haagen-Dazs cherry chocolate chip. It has like chunks of black cherries and like chunks of chocolate chips, and the ice cream is like a mauve purplish color. I'm absolutely obsessed. If you give me one of those, I will eat the entire tub. So, as somebody that is lactose intolerant, I don't really eat that very often. Where is your favorite vacation spot? I'd say that my favorite place that I've been to so far was Mexico and visiting Lake Tulum, but I need to go like absolutely all over this planet. I would love to go to New Zealand, Australia, Ireland, anywhere in the United Kingdom, like London, England, Paris. I would love to go see Egypt, Cairo, especially Thailand, Vietnam. Like, there's so many places I would love to see. Japan, India is around like the top of my list. What are your plans for the future? At this point in my life, I'm trying to like not neurotically overplan everything, but I would love to be working more in the entertainment industry, taking on some more film projects, creating and writing more projects, continuing with my YouTube and other social media. But it's kind of hard to predict even like 5 years in the future with how much social media changes these days, so I don't really know, but hopefully still having some form of career, and hopefully the world has not ended by then. The next question was, have you ever auditioned to work or dance at a Disney theme park? I think you would have a blast. It would rocket your social media. Look up some Disney college program, Disney cast members channels. So I have actually. I auditioned for Disney Singapore, which it was an Aladdin audition, so not really for me.
I have no idea who will play Rosa Parks.
Abby, what's the status with Rosa Parks?
But the funny story is the first time I went to Disney World, I was in my 20s, and I ended up leaving Disney World and like finding the email of like all of the executives at Disney World and everybody in charge of hiring, and basically wrote them this lovely letter and was like, I would love a job. And they're like, okay, come work for us, but just so you know, there's no on-site housing or anything. You have to find your own place to live in Orlando. And I was like, well, that's not gonna work. So I was actually offered a job at Disney, but I couldn't take it. This past winter, I was actually looking at some cruise line opportunities to dance for Disney, but so far there hasn't been anything that's like a good fit come up from Disney that's like around me to audition to, but we'll see. Have you ever thought about teaching your own branded dance classes online? So I have actually thought about creating an online dance course. This is something I've thought about for years, or an app, but basically training and technique. I have a bunch of other ideas. Like I'd love to do a online program specifically for adults that are just beginning dance, and an online program for high school students that are auditioning for dance programs and musical theater programs, and just an online technique trainer and a specific one for turns. So a bunch of different online courses that I've been thinking of creating, but as of this very moment, I don't have any. Boys' dancewear costumes are usually so boring and they don't seem to change much from year to year, unlike dance costumes for girls that seem to be evolving over time. If you could design your own boys or even gender neutral costumes dancewear, what would they look like? Ugh. This is like the bane of my existence because there's literally no diversity when it comes to men's costuming in dance, aside from in ballet. But for girls' costumes, it's like all over the board. If you go to a dance competition, half the time the guys come out, they're wearing tights and no shirt, and that's their costume, regardless of the story. So I would just like to see more character in costumes. Like, if you think of costumes, if you watched Dance Moms, like Fragile Forest, or a bunch of those other very characterized costumes. They're not specific to a girl. It doesn't have to be a beautiful rhinestone leotard. You could make it more masculine and be a bodysuit and things like that. So just more characterization and more detail in men's costumes. Like, it's really, really boring to just see boys out there dancing in tights. Why are we putting 7-year-olds on stage just shirtless in tights? I don't know, and I just feel like we can be more creative than that. I am friends with a few Ukrainian rhythmic gymnasts. The fighting and turmoil going on is having such an impact on their training and sport. What advice do you have for those artists, dancers, athletes that have a major traumatic event happen in their life that prevents them from doing what they love, train, go to class, or perform? Honestly, I wish I had the answer because, like, anxiety and mental health issues have been the biggest setback in my own career and the biggest reasons why I've stopped training myself or moved out of big city centers and living in rural areas where there's no access to good training, where I just train on my own. So I would say that the biggest and best advice that I have is to look after your mental health first. Seek as much guidance and support as you can. Try and make sure that you have a good support system around you, be it friends, family, therapists, things like that. But definitely seek professional help if you have the resources to do so, because your mental health is incredibly important with any kind of sport or art. How do you deal with hate or past abuse trauma? So, growing up, I was bullied by absolutely everybody in my elementary school. I think I had like one friend before grade 6. And after that, I was really bullied by a lot of the guys. But before grade 6, I was really bullied by absolutely everybody. People used to walk around, and if they accidentally bumped into me, they'd run to the nearest person and be like, oh my god, ew, Jordan germs, no returns, and like wipe their hand off. So I was like a contaminated disease, a pandemic within my classroom, if you will. So I would say that at that age, I kind of went inwards and became kind of very spiteful. Like, I'll show you guys, I'm gonna be the biggest, I'm gonna be the best thing ever. And I feel like that motivated me for so long in a such negative way. And if you are motivated by spite or motivated by trying to prove something to someone, it's so draining and it takes all of your energy away from you because you're doing something still for somebody else. And regardless of whether you're doing it out of spite, you're still people pleasing, you're still trying to prove yourself. So I would say that the biggest lesson that I learned, which took me to like my 20s, is to do it for yourself. Find what you love, to try and release habits like perfectionism. And it really is a habit, perfectionism. So if you're always striving to be perfect, it's probably because there's something external that you are seeking, and if you don't achieve that perfection, you kind of beat yourself up about it and it becomes this negative cycle. And so I would definitely say that the biggest lesson for me is to really go inward again, but find what motivates me and find the real reasons and positive reasons why I would like to continue doing things in my life, whether it is art, whether it is business, or pursuing relationships and things like that. But I would say don't do it out of spite. You don't need to prove yourself to anybody. Just learning humility is kind of the best tool that you can use to get rid of your perfectionism and to heal from past traumas and stuff like that. And again, seek professional help whenever you have the resources to do so. Do you know Louis Tomlinson or his songs? P.S. You should react to Two of Us. I'm not too familiar with One Direction, however, I was just rewatching their auditions on the X Factor the other day, and I was thinking of actually reacting to them here on my channel. And I'm blown away because Harry Styles came out there and like had so much charisma and so much like detail in his artistry and his singing, and they were like, boo, garbage. And I'm like, what? He was amazing. Is this show all about, or was this show all about just the look at that point? And because these other boys had like a boy band look and straight hair, that they're like, yes, amazing singer. Like, I don't get it. I thought that Harry was so freaking talented. All of the boys were talented, but like, they were like, yeah, thumbs up to all the boys except for Harry. They were like, garbage, garbage. And I'm like, wrong. Anyways, I do know who Louis Tomlinson is, but I don't really know most of his music, and I could react to it here on my channel. He says, every performer has some days where they feel like quitting. Have you ever had those days? If so, what motivated you to keep going? Well, honestly, the day that I posted asking questions for you guys for this Q&A was one of those days, and what kept me motivated that day was you guys. And it's not so much that I have a bunch of days lately where I feel like I want to quit and give up. It's more so that I want to take on another thing and maintain everything else that I've been doing. But I would say that when I was in college and stuff, and I was incredibly hard on myself trying to dance to an incredibly high level when I had barely any experience, I felt like giving up every single day, and I left ballet class just beating myself up, wanting to cry, or sometimes crying every day. Same with tap class, it was just so frustrating. And I would say to just reevaluate the standards that you have for yourself if that's the case, because it's great to have amazing admirations and goals and huge dreams, but if your standards for yourself at the current moment are just entirely unrealistic, you're always going to be setting yourself up for failure, and you really need to be building yourself up and encouraging yourself in order to succeed at anything. So just set little baby steps, little goals, and if every day you set a little goal, you'll be amazed at how fast you get to these giant goals that you had set for yourself, as long as you break down everything instead of being like, I need to be amazing today, because it's not realistic, especially as somebody that's new or somebody that's struggling at something and it doesn't come super naturally to you. I would say that just make more realistic goals for yourself and set more realistic standards for yourself in the present moment, and just work in the present moment to be the very best that you can be. So Pri says, sometimes I feel like I learn something or gain certain insights by watching the girls from the show grow. For example, Brooke motivated me to balance time between dance, school, and social life. Maddie taught me the importance of a strong work ethic and dedication. Chloe and Nia taught me to persevere no matter what the odds. Did you learn or gain any insights from them? So yes, that is actually why the show was addictive to me. So the show debuted, I think I was in my first year of musical theater college, so my second year of college, and I realized that the girls' experience with Abby was really, really mirroring my experience in college and the professors that I had in college. And it really motivated me because there were so many days where all of us felt so beaten down and felt like there was no way that we could ever fulfill the expectations of our professors or fulfill the expectations for ourselves. But seeing these little 6, 7, 8, 9 year olds on television just keep going and keep doing it, and also doing it in front of a giant audience and succeeding, just really kept me motivated and put things into perspective that, like, okay, if a 6 year old can do this, you can do it. And again, like, if you're going to compare yourself, make sure to make realistic standards for yourself. I don't think I was doing anything too realistically back when I was in college. I was extremely hard on myself, but the girls from Dance Moms were definitely keeping me motivated, and just watching them grow, even watching their technique, because a lot of them were much stronger dancers than I was, because I was just beginning my dance journey then. I would watch them, and I would even learn a lot of technique just from watching them or listening to Abby. So I definitely learned a lot from Dance Moms that way. But the biggest way that impacted me was watching these girls grow, and when they succeeded, I would literally just like cry. My heart would explode. Your favorite style of dance to do is lyrical or musical theater. My favorite to watch is acro lyrical or acro contemporary. Or, like, I would freaking love to go to a Shan Yun performance. I've never been, but I would absolutely love that. Just love really clean, pretty acrobatic. Favorite costume you've ever seen slash worn? Some of my favorite costumes I've worn were Mr. Mistopheles. Created that myself. Some of my costumes from Anything Goes or Les Mis. I don't know. I absolutely love the costuming aspect of theater, so I just love and appreciate every single costume. Some favorite costumes of mine from Dance Moms, though. I loved Maddie's costume from Happiness. I loved Sarah's costume from One Heart. I loved the really pretty pink costumes, obviously. And I loved Kalani's costume from Fragile Forest. I think those are some of my favorites. Who did you think was the most talented OG Dance Moms dancer, and why? Honestly, from the OGs, I was so impressed by all of them. I remember absolutely loving watching Brooke and Chloe dance when I first started watching the show. But I think that all of the girls were extremely talented. There was just something magical about each and every single one of them. As the years progressed, I was always fascinated by watching Maddie dance, because I thought that she brought a story to the stage that most people cannot bring until they've experienced like 20 years of life. So I thought that was fascinating, but all of the girls were incredibly talented at dance. Who did you think was the most talented guest Dance Moms dancer, and why? Well, I feel like Sophia was a prodigal technical dancer, so she would definitely be at the top of my list. I loved when Bryn came on as a guest and did Diamond in the Rough while she was still training at club. That was amazing. I don't know if you would consider that a guest, because she was literally on the show for so many years after that. Brandy says, why do you think your career on social media is dead? Do a video maybe if you're up to it, of course. So basically why I was just saying that is because I made a Q&A on like every platform and nobody responded. In general, the engagement on my other social media platforms is nothing like it is here on YouTube, except for people on Instagram that I talk to in the DMs or in the comments. It's usually like the same 5 people that have been following me for years and years, and we are basically like best friends from across the universe at this point. But basically what's been going on behind the scenes is my YouTube channel was demonetized over a month ago, and they said that I was making reused content. So I made sure to go through and delete everything that could possibly be infringing on that. And then I reapplied. They said that there's still reused content on my channel, and so I sent in an appeal where I had to break down literally every single piece of content on my channel and how I create it. And they responded to that by saying that I didn't focus on all of my content, and so I've been trying to contact them on Twitter and here on YouTube for several weeks now, because my channel has been demonetized for like over a month, and every time your channel gets demonetized, your engagement just dies and your videos stop getting sent out into the algorithm. So I was getting 20,000 views an hour until I got demonetized, and then I started getting about 80 views an hour within a day. So I was like, that's a big drop. But so far it's just really frustrating because my channel has been demonetized for no reason. They rejected my appeal for no reason, and it's impossible to contact anybody from YouTube. So it's good impression fun. Gracie Loves to Dance 1234 asks, when did you start dancing / realized your passion for dance choreography and love for dance? So I started dancing when I was about 19. Aside from that, we did like the gymnastics unit in public gym class, which is like learning how to do a cartwheel. And in grade 6 we had, actually her name was Nancy Marie Villegas at the time, but she was the studio owner of Grand Prairie Dance Academy, and she came to teach a hip-hop class to our gym class when I was in grade 6. Fast forward like however many years later, and I had graduated from college, and I ended up getting my first job as a dance teacher at Grand Prairie Dance Academy with Nancy Marie Regler, which was her new name because she had been married. So kind of a weird full circle moment. The technical first dance class I ever took was this like hip hop workshop in grade 6, and then she ended up being my boss and the lady that taught me how to teach dance. So aside from that, choreography, I started choreographing in, I think, my second year of musical theater school, and I think it was mostly, honestly, So You Think You Can Dance and Dance Moms that inspired me to start choreographing. I realized my passion for dance when I was like 2 or 3, the first time I saw like the Nutcracker. I've been obsessed with watching gymnastics and dance and ballet, everything my entire life. So that passion has always been there. I always wanted to be on Disney Channel. I wanted to be a child star. I was like, I've been obsessed with everything dance and everything performing my entire life. Allie says, what are some of the coolest projects you have been in as a dancer? So I would say the number one coolest project was probably Descendants 2, just because it's been on my bucket list my entire life to work with Kenny Ortega. And I got to work with Kenny. He remembered me by name. He called me by name, and I was like, what? So that like blew my brain cells. The next question she had was, do you have any cool stories about meeting any famous people who were super nice or anything like that? So Kenny, he was one amazing person that I met, but I also met Dove Cameron, and she was incredible. She told me that I had the most beautiful eyes she had ever seen when we were on set for Descendants 2, so that was like, again, another brain popping moment. I was like, what? And China Ann McLean I met on that set. Cameron Boyce I met on that set. He gave me a hug and was really sweet. So yeah, that set was a magical time in my life and my career. And I also met Daniel Radcliffe on a film, but that wasn't anything dance related. I guess we were kind of like doing a club dancing scene, but it was definitely not a dance number. I was not hired as a dancer, I was hired as an actor. And he was incredibly friendly as well. Another dance project that I absolutely loved was one of the most recent dance projects that I was in before I left Vancouver, and it was called A Midnight's Tale, and it was just a really great experience meeting so many amazing friends on that set and working with people that were already my friends, but it was also a great growth experience for me because at that point I had become totally like reclusive, a total introvert, was in my apartment just working on YouTube every single day. I hadn't been dancing in like a year, and my friend Christian reached out and was like, hey, do you want to be on this dance project? I didn't even audition or anything like that, and so I kind of jumped back into everything full force. We had like 12 hours of rehearsal before we filmed the entire film, so it was a lot, but I managed to do it. It was a great experience, and yeah, thank you, Christian. And Ari says, how do you plan your weeks for content creation, meal prep, etc.? Help a sister out with organization. Or not, I just think you're organized. Well, thank you for thinking that, but I am literally the least organized person. It's just that I have developed a sense of having absolutely no work-life balance. So it may seem that I am organized because of all of the content that I produce on all of these channels, but if you're seeing me baking something, that's like the only time I was baking something in 2 weeks. I definitely don't do any meal prepping, or sometimes even like in months. I have a horrible habit of just like forgetting to eat and just working for like 6 hours, and then I'm like, oh my god, I've just been working for 6 hours straight and I totally forgot to eat. So organization and a work-life balance are just not two things that I have down pat. So because of my ADHD and sensory issues, I will just not feel when I am hungry, or especially if I'm hyper-focused on something, I won't realize that like 6 hours have passed by. So definitely not super organized in that way. I've actually been struggling a lot lately to just try and do mechanical eating and to try and remind myself to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I've been trying to remind myself lately to get enough water, but I have a tendency, because of my ADHD as well, to hyper focus and fixate on one aspect of life at a time. So whether that is working and filming all the time and just being hyper focused and obsessed with that, or if it was dancing and training, I will be like putting all of the rest of my work to the wayside, and I'll just be so fixated on training and dancing and working on my technique every day, which is how I got great at dancing really fast. But I definitely put like everything else to the wayside. Or if I start focusing on eating healthy and just generally exercising for my health, then I just focus on just that and I tend to forget about everything else. If I'm working on a film, I tend to just end up focusing on that film and on work, which can be very damaging for me, because then I end up working like 16 to 18-hour days and just not taking care of myself, not like doing my laundry, eating properly, sleeping at all. I'll just be like living off of coffee and way too much at that. So, yeah, those are some of my struggles in terms of organization. And meal prepping would probably be a useful tactic for me, but I definitely don't do that. Also, it turns out that there's a TV show coming to Grand Prairie, Alberta, my small rural town, so I applied for that. It's going to be filming all of May, so fingers crossed for me for that. I was like, what coincidence? Like, I don't think anything has ever filmed here, ever, like in my life or even before, so I don't know if this is just like a change in current with the film industry here in Canada, but that would be really cool. I submitted for that. We'll see if I get the job, but if I do, I'll be filming all of May, so hopefully I can try and keep my life in check during that time, but fingers crossed. But I think that that is about it for questions. So I just want to say thank you very much to everybody that submitted a question for me. I am super appreciative of everybody that tunes into my channel and takes an interest in what I have to say, and honestly is just invested enough to even have a question to ask. So I'm super grateful for you guys, and honestly, you guys made my day when I made that community post and received so many questions from you guys. So thank you so much, but I think that that is it for this video. It's time to get that wig off my head because she was not a good time, but I guess that that is it for today's video. If you like this kind of video, let me know down in the comments below. Again, thank you to everybody that asked a question, and hopefully my answers were sufficient. But that is it for this video, so as always, make sure to be weird, be wild, and stay sparkly, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!